Okay, we are finally fucking back. I do apologize for being away for pretty much all of March, but thankfully the work trip didn't last as long as I anticipated, and also the aftermath afterwards was fairly smooth too. I can tell y'all are understandably tired of the marathons given their performance of the last three. I figured it would be best to come back with a bang, and what better time to be than to present a model I've been wanting to make for a number of years now. She is also one that I've been teasing for the last about 2 years now. Here is my model of Sigrid. Sigrid is the very first OC created for the Porterverse. She was initially created well before the likes of Thorkel and Terrius Archibald and all of them. Sigrid was the very first one created in the fall of 2022. Now let's get into her official backstory. Here we go. Sigrid was one of the LNER L1 class tank engines built in 1945. She would very briefly wear LNER Apple Green before becoming a British Railways engine. Right when this happened, British Railways was shuffling things around on the Northwestern region, particularly on the Arlesdale tramway on Sodor. Prior to 1948, the runners of the branch there were just Toby and Toby and two of his siblings that worked on the line. But British Railways was wanting to downsize the roster on the branch while also maintaining the pulling power. This is where Sigrid comes in. She was fitted with front and back cow counters and sent off to the tramway, while Toby and his siblings were relocated. Toby went to Thomas's branch line and his siblings went elsewhere. And this is when Sigrid became the sole runner of the Arlesdale tramway. For the next nearly 20 years, Sigrid would run all services pretty much entirely on her own. In 1965, the tramway was shut down by British Railways despite public demand and interest wanting to keep it open. British Railways did want its engine back and left Sigrid's fate in Sodor's hands. So Tom had took the loophole to his full advantage and had Sigrid placed in storage at Arlesdale End. If you're a bit familiar with the Porterverse canon, you'll know what happened in 1968. This was when the Northwestern region of British Railways separated from British Railways entirely and once became the Northwestern Railway. The same day the ruling was actually finalized, Sigrid's old crew ran over to Arlesdale End and flung the shed doors open and danced around Sigrid. Sigrid was officially preserved. Sigrid was quickly hauled off for repairs, which saw her as the main runner of the now reopened Arlesdale tramway by 1971. During these repairs, Sigrid was repainted into an NWR livery for the first time. Today, you can still find Sigrid on Sodor, happily running her Arlesdale tramway. Sigrid's model was a ton of fun to make, and she is also the most unique in the sense that she's the first engine in the collection to have custom fitted parts. To start off, Sigrid was made using a Hornby L1 tank engine. I primed the body in a gray brush-on acrylic. After that, I painted the body in Apple Barrel's chocolate brown color. This is the same shade of brown I plan to use for Toby when I eventually make him. After about 3 coats of the brown color, that's usually the sweet spot for models, I did the trim work. This cream color being Apple Barrel's warm buff. Following that was the lining. This color being Apple Barrel's cobalt hue. It is a very tedious yet doable process if you know how to do it right. Next step was the numbering. So the whole numbering process was just I took some masking tape and marked out a square that was also perfectly aligned as well to make sure it wasn't crooked or off center. And I very carefully with tiny brushes and toothpicks wrote out the number 2 and the 6. And after the yellow paint dried, I went in with some touch-ups with the brown until it looked smooth. Boom. 2 and 6. And this was repeated for the other side as well. The bulk of the work was now done. All that was left were the custom fitted parts. The first one's kind of a given, it's the megaphone. The final step was the most difficult part of the whole body. The cow catchers. This is, without question, the most intricate mod I've done on a model to date. The process was not necessarily difficult, it was just very tedious. I started out by taking intricate measurements to ensure that cat catchers were the same width as a buffer beam and also wouldn't interfere with the wheels and everything. I then used some index card and cut out with the measurements. And then took a few toothpicks, cut them down to size, and then very carefully glued them on to make sure they're all evenly spaced out and looked proper. After all that whole process, Sigrid of Arlesdale was finally complete. I am so happy with how she turned out. Absolutely so glad to finally have her in model form. And also while I'm here, I'm also going to give a brief bench update. Right before I left for the work trip, I gave my Porter model buffers finally, and also painted up his side rods red. I just feel like it's a really cool addition to him, you know? Just really seals them together, you know? And I think that's all the updates. Thank you all very much for sticking with me throughout the marathons. I am so glad to be back to making regular videos again. And I shall see you all same time next week, as always.